Friends, gather round because things just got real interesting in the world of global trade. And by interesting, I mean potentially catastrophic. On February 1st, 2025, President Trump slapped tariffs on goods from Canada, Mexico and China, 25% on goods from our neighbors, 10% on everything from China. He also eliminated the e-commerce rule exempting low-value goods from tariffs. Trump invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, aimed at $900 billion worth of imports. Canada and Mexico retaliated with tariffs on US goods. Buckle up, folks, because things are about to get bumpy. So what does this tariff tsunami mean for the global economy? In short, chaos. Take the auto industry, for example. These days, cars are basically rolling jigsaw puzzles of parts sourced from all over the world. A 25% tariff on parts from Mexico and Canada. It's like trying to complete a puzzle with half the pieces missing and the other half dipped in glue. We're talking potential plant closures in Michigan and Ontario with 125,000 Canadian auto jobs hanging in the balance. And don't even get me started on e-commerce. Remember that rule I mentioned? Yeah, that's gone. Now, every single package coming from China, even those tiny trinkets you order on a whim, face mountains of paperwork and hefty tariffs, shipping times, expect delays, prices, you better believe they're going up. Okay, so the global economy is in a tailspin, but how will this trade war affect you, the average consumer? Well, let's start with everyone's favorite green fruit, the avocado. Over 90% of our avocado supply comes from Mexico. Thanks to the tariffs, get ready to shell out an extra 15% for your avocado toast by March. And it's not just avocados feeling the heat. Gasoline prices are also expected to spike as tariffs on Canadian oil kick in. But the economic pain doesn't stop there. The UK, despite not being directly involved in this trade spat, is bracing for a 0.2% inflation bump. This means fewer interest rate cuts, which could translate to higher mortgage rates for everyone. So yeah, that dream home you've been saving up for, it just got a little further out of reach. Section 4, Geopolitical Earthquakes, America First, World Second. Trump's tariffs aren't just shaking up the global economy, they're sending shockwaves through the world of geopolitics. The USMCA, that shining beacon of North American trade, is now a source of tension and mistrust. Mexico's president, understandably irked by the tariffs and the not-so-subtle accusations about fentanyl, called out the US for slander. Canada's Trudeau, usually the picture of diplomatic composure, expressed disappointment, which in Canadian speak is basically the equivalent of declaring war. Meanwhile, China is playing chess, while the US is playing checkers. They're strategically shifting supply chains to Vietnam and Mexico, hedging their bets against future US aggression. But Beijing is facing a dilemma: retaliate too aggressively and risk escalation, or appear weak and risk emboldening Trump further. The rest of the world is watching with a mixture of amusement and terror. Europe, already grappling with its own set of challenges, is particularly concerned. Trump's threats of future tariffs on the EU, coupled with the deafening silence from NATO allies, signal a potential shift away from the WTO and the rules-based international order. Is this the beginning of the end for multilateralism? Section 5, a new world order scenarios for the future. So, what does the future hold for this brave new world of Trumpian trade policy? Well, strap in, because it's anyone's guess. One scenario, and let's be honest, the most likely one given Trump's penchant for chaos, is escalation. Imagine a world where Trump follows through on his threats to impose a 60% tariff on all Chinese goods and slaps hefty duties on European imports. We're talking a full-blown trade war, with global markets fragmenting into US, China and EU-centric blocs. Globalization as we know it would cease to exist. But hey, maybe, just maybe, cooler heads will prevail. Businesses, tired of the uncertainty and volatility, might adapt. We could see a resurgence in US manufacturing as companies like CRG Automation, which builds those fancy robots that make things, experience a surge in demand. Of course, this comes with its own set of challenges: higher wages, skilled labor shortages, and the very real possibility that those robots will eventually rise up and overthrow us all. And then there's the wild card, a complete revolution in global trade. Imagine Canada and Mexico, fed up with being treated like America's backyard, diversifying their trade partnerships and reducing their reliance on the US. Picture the global South led by the BRICS plus nations. seizing this opportunity to rewrite the rules of global trade, creating a more equitable and just system. It's a long shot, but hey, stranger things have happened. Section 6. Ideological earthquake reshaping or unraveling globalization. Trump's tariffs are more than just a policy shift. They represent a fundamental ideological break from the past. For decades, the US has been a champion of free trade and globalization, albeit a flawed and often hypocritical one. But Trump's America First agenda has thrown a wrench into the gears of the global economy, leaving many to wonder, is this the end of globalization as we know it? It's still too early to say for sure. Perhaps these tariffs will be a wake-up call, forcing a much-needed conversation about the flaws of globalization and the need for a more equitable system. Or maybe, just maybe, they'll be the first tremors of an ideological earthquake, one that will reshape the global order in ways we can't even begin to imagine. Either way, one thing is certain. The world is entering uncharted territory, and the only guarantee is more uncertainty. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a bumpy ride.